Hi, I am Nagaraj, Master IPC Trainer with IPC India, and I conduct CIT and CIS certification courses in IPC standards for the aspirants as assigned by IPC India. This presentation is going to be about the new workforce training offered by IPC through the IPC Edge Learning Portal, which is titled as Electronics Assembly Operators Training. So let me start with the presentation. This training is named as Electronic Assembly for Operators, or in other words, a short form. It is also referred as EAO, which is available in the Edge platform. This is a new workforce training course that has been introduced by IPC, and this course is designed for the individuals who have just begun their career in the electronic manufacturing industry as operators, and also freshers who aspire to start their career in the industry as assembly operators. A participant going through this training program will gain the basic knowledge required to be an assembly operator in the electronic industry and can carry out his work more confidently after the training program. The knowledge acquired by the participant after this training program would further help an individual in participating in the certification course in the relevant applicable IPC standards and get certified as IPC applications specialist, a certification which is globally recognized by the electronic industry. The two established certifications are IPC 610 and J Standard 001. IPC 610 describes about the acceptance criteria of PCB assembly. So this standard certification would be helpful for the people who will be aspiring to take up the job as inspection operators in the assembly. Whereas J Standard 001, it deals about the materials, process, and acceptance criteria. So obviously, this standard will be useful for the individual who want to pursue his career as an assembly operator. The EAO course, as I referred, is available in two versions in the Edge platform, namely the self-learning and the instructor-led versions. The instructor-led version course can be administered in the local language to the operators or to the participants, which would enable the participant to understand and acquire the knowledge covered in the topics very easily. The topics is distributed into 18 modules, the entire course. The module 1 to 9 are the mandatory modules, and 10 to 18 are the optional modules. So to obtain the certification after this training, an individual has to go through the module 1 to 9 and take up an online examination and pass. Module 10 to 18, as I said, is our optional modules, and the individual can choose the topics which is of his interest and take up the online examination in those modules, and they get endorsed in the certificate that will be obtained by passing the mandatory modules. The topics are carefully selected to align with the skills and competency level vital to advancing in electronics career at any level. It has got micro-learning approach, interactive sessions, videos and animations, industry-supplied visuals, pre- and post-assessment to measure learning. Links to the external learning resources are also available in the topics. It has got 3 sections, namely the pre-quiz, which will enable the participant to assess his own knowledge about the subject by answering the 3 to 5 questions in the pre-quiz section. After which he has to go through the topics in the discussed in the module. Then this module, these topics will have the explanation in the text. It has got animations, it has got videos, and also backed up with the exercises which will help, through which the participant can enhance and have a thorough knowledge about the subject that is discussed in the module. After attempting the module, he has to go for the post quiz, where the post quiz has got about 10 to 15 questions approximately, and that is designed to help confirm what an individual has acquired, the knowledge he has acquired, and identify areas that still need work and quickly link back to the original content for the review. So the pre-quiz and post-quiz will help the individual to make his own assessment about the knowledge prior and after going through the module. Once he answers the pre-quiz and the post-quiz and go through the module, that module gets completed. Then there is also a feedback mechanism through which an individual can give the feedback to IPC. Now let me introduce you to the different contents of the different modules. The mandatory module, as I told, it is 1 to 9. In module 1, it introduces an individual to the electronic industry, where he will recognize the role of IPC standards in the electronic industry, distinguish the classification like class 1, class 2, class 3 of electronic products, identify IPC standard training levels. Module 2, it introduces to printed circuit assembly, is also referred as PCA. Define the common features of printed circuit board, the bare board, then identify the common components of printed circuit assembly, then describe different attachment methods used in the assembly. Module 3 gives you the overview of assembly and soldering process. It describes the assembly process of surface mount, the through hole, and compare the process of surface mount and through hole components. Identify the different post process within the electronic assembly process. Module 4 helps you to understand the safety aspects an individual has to know when he is taking up the job in the electronic work area. So it identifies standard safety signs and symbols relevant to assembly operators, describes standard safety procedures for protecting assembly operators, equipment and product, identify potential risks and hazards of standards material used by the assembly operators, describes safety concerns of using standard assembly equipment. Module 5 talks about electrostatic discharge, which is also referred as ESD, and the product handling methods. So it identifies standards, safety signs and symbols relevant to assembly operators, identify the common cause and concerns of ESD in electronic assembly, describe the function of personal grounding and static control devices, demonstrate proper handling procedures for PCBs and PCAs to mitigate any ESD failure after the assembly. And it describes cause and prevention of foreign object debris on the electronic assembly, which is referred to as FOD. Module 6, it describes the method of identifying the component, different electronic components. So identify components used in electronic assemblies, differentiate between wires, cables, and harness, identify the types of terminals used in electronic assemblies, identify various types of hardware used in the electronic assembly. Module 7, it will give you insight into various documents and the measurement tools. So the documents referred or explained are the bill of material, the assembly drawing, and the circuit drawing, and also the common measurement tools and symbols used in the assembly process. Module 8 deals with basic PCB and PCA defects that one may come across during the assembly operation. So it defines quality in electronic manufacturing, define the different quality conditions specified in IPC 610 and IPC 600. As I already told, IPC 610 talks about acceptability standard for PCB assemblies, and IPC 600 is a standard for acceptance criteria for bare PCBs. Identify PCB and PCA defects according to IPC standards. Use quality conditions criteria to determine component acceptability. Module 9, it talks about different IPC standards. So it introduces different IPC standards to the participant, define IPC standards in reference to the electronic manufacturing industry, identify the common IPC standards relevant to an assembly operator, compare IPC certification program with IPC workforce training programs like CIS certifications. After completing the module 1 to 9, the participant can attempt an online examination. This online examination duration is for about 90 minutes, and the minimum passing score is 80%. After passing this online examination by scoring minimum 80%, the individual will be qualified as IPC assembly operator, and there will be a certificate which can be downloaded from the IPC Edge portal from the participants' dashboard. To pass this examination, the student may attempt, he has got 3 attempts to pass the examination. Suppose a participant fails to score 80% in the first attempt, he can review the contents once again, attempt the examination once again. Then another attempt, then the third attempt. The third attempt is permitted only after 24 hours after the second attempt. So he has to go through he can relearn, go through the contents once again, and after 24 hours, he can take the third attempt and pass the examination. Next, on the optional modules, module 10 to 18, they are called the optional modules. Module 10 is Introduction to Hand Soldering. It describes the hand soldering process and its properties, explain functions of common soldering tools and equipments, materials, identify common hand soldering defects and soldering anomalies. Module 11 It describes the process of assembling printed circuit boards with surface-bound devices called SMT technology, and describe the reflow process used in the SMT assembly. Identify the cause and types of SMT defects within the soldering process. Module 12, describe the process and properties of through-hole technology. Identify common through-hole insertion methods, tools, and machines. Identify through-hole assembly defects. Module 13, 14, and 15, they pertain to wire harness assembly. So, a electronic assembly operator may be required to carry out some operations on the wire harness and terminate the wires into the PCB assembly also. So that's why this has been introduced as an optional module in electronic assembly operator. However, operators who want to get trained exclusively on the wire harness assembly, they can go through another similar training program, which is called as WHO, Wire Harness Operators Training, which is also available in the EDGE portal. So, option module 13 deals with wire and cable preparation. It identifies characteristics of wire and cable used in the electronic assembly, describes steps involved in the wire preparation, describe inspection criteria for cutting, stripping, and tinning of the wire. Module 14, it identifies types of wire terminations, different methods of connecting wires to the terminals by soldering or crimping, differentiate between acceptable and defect, soldered and crimp termination. So the termination, as I told, it can be soldered or it can be crimped. So this module 14 differentiates between the crimp and solder termination defects. Module 15, identify types of connectors used in the wire harness technology, distinguish methods of connectorization, distinguish methods for making and evaluating the wire splices, describe the wire harness assembly process. Module 16 identifies the tools used in the electronic assembly, recognize the various hardwares like screws, bolts, nuts, heat sinks, connectors, etc. used in the electronic assembly, differentiate between acceptable and defect conditions of installed hardware and the material. Module 17 is about conformal coating. It identifies the equipment, tools, and materials used in the conformal coating, explains steps in the conformal coating process, identify conformal coating defects. Module 18 discusses press fit components, press fit connectors. So it identifies the tools, equipment, and materials used in the press fit insertion, describe the steps of the press fit insertion process, identify common press fit insertion defects. So, after completion of the optional modules and taking the post-quiz examination in the optional modules and scoring a minimum of 70% in every module, the individual will get an endorsement on the certificate that he has obtained by passing the mandatory modules. So the certificate looks like this. It has got, you can see it has got 1 to 9 modules as the mandatory modules, and the 10 and 11 are the completed optional modules. So if you complete all the 18 modules, all the 18 modules will get the mention in the certificate. IPC India has also devised a practical session after this going through this training modules, where the individual will have a hands-on experience by assembling the various commonly used type of PTH and SMT components onto a PCB and soldering them. And also he will get a first-hand experience of handling different types of tools and consumables as shown in this list. The total course will be for about 4 days, depending on the number of optional modules that an individual selects to get trained. So the first 2 days will be on the mandatory modules, and followed by the examination for 90 minutes. The third and fourth day will cover the optional modules. Of course, depending on the number of modules selected, it will end on third day, or it can go to the fourth day also, followed by the hands-on practicals. Once he completes the practicals, the student will be asked to evaluate and inspect their own work and make comments, and they can discuss with the instructor and clarify all their doubts so that they can confidently carry out their day-to-day work as an assembly operator. With that, I come to the end of this presentation on the EAO course. Now, I'm going to play a video which will explain how this training is administered.
Welcome to the Electronics Assembly for Operators course. In this class, you will learn to identify and use the key tools, materials, and processes required to build the electronic products that make our modern way of life possible. That's a lot of important information, so we've divided the course into 18 user-friendly modules. The first 9 of these modules are mandatory, and the remaining 9 are optional. The first 9 mandatory modules cover all the essentials, including an overview of the electronics industry, an introduction to circuit board components and attachment methods, circuit board assembly processes, safety and ESD measures designed to protect both assembly operators and products from harm, methods for identifying and placing circuit board components, the documents used to make sure you are using the right parts and procedures, defects that can impact the form, fit, and functionality of the completed circuit board assembly, and the IPC standards that can help operators like you ensure the highest quality of electronic products. Once you have successfully completed the post-quiz for each mandatory module, you will be eligible to take the final exam. The exam consists of 50 multiple-choice questions and a time limit of 90 minutes. Participants who obtain a passing score of 80% will be able to access and download their qualified IPC Assembly Operator certificate. Don't worry if you don't obtain a passing score on your first try. Simply review the course content and try again when you're ready. You may attempt the exam up to 3 times. Once you've completed the 9 mandatory modules, you can take 1 or more of the 9 optional modules. These modules provide a more detailed look at specific tools and technologies used in the electronics assembly, including hand soldering, surface mount technology, through-hole technology, wire and cable preparation, wire and terminal technology, cable and harness technology, hardware, conformal coating, and press-fit technology. Satisfactory completion of optional modules is reflected on your Certificate of Qualification, so make sure to access and download a new certificate when you are done. Each mandatory and optional module contains a pre-quiz, learning objectives, topic-specific sections, a post-quiz, and a glossary. Let's take a quick look at each of these components to see how they can help you get the most out of this learning experience. First up is the pre-quiz. The pre-quiz is a short assessment designed to help you recall what you already know and prepare you to focus on unfamiliar content when you see it presented in the module. Don't worry about the score if you don't do well on your first attempt. Think about the questions you may have answered incorrectly. Then try again. If you don't do well on your second attempt, simply review your answers and give it another go. This is a learning exercise, so you will have 3 opportunities to achieve the passing grade of 60%. Once you have completed the pre-quiz, you can move on to the unit module. Right after the introduction page, you will have the opportunity to review the module's learning objectives. Make sure to refer to them as you work through the module sections to focus your efforts on those aspects of the training that will help you acquire the relevant knowledge and skills. The module menu at the upper left corner of your screen allows you to jump back to the learning objectives, as well as any other part of the course at any time. After you have reviewed the learning objectives, visit each section of the module or select the topics that most readily address your gaps in knowledge. These narrated segments contain straightforward text, illustrative videos, and engaging practice activities that make even the most complex topics easy to understand. Each activity is specifically designed to help you acquire the knowledge and skills you need to succeed as an assembly operator. You can also access the glossary at any time by clicking the Glossary tab in each module. This is an excellent resource for learning the different terms that play a vital role in your everyday work as an assembly operator. Some of these items may seem a bit obscure, but terminology is important in helping you understand scientific concepts and discussing the specialized tools, materials, and processes unique to the electronics industry. After you have worked through the module sections, be sure to refer back to the learning objectives and ask yourself if you are able to perform the activities listed there. If possible, explain the content to someone else, or write a summary describing each concept or action. Expressing the ideas and strategies in your own words will help connect the new content with relevant concepts and experiences in your memory. This in turn will make it easier to remember the things you learned in this course when it comes time to apply them on the job. When you're ready, exit the main module and take the post-quiz located on the course homepage. This short multiple-choice assessment allows you to gauge your success in achieving each module's learning objectives. In addition, research shows that the effort required to recall what you've learned embeds it more firmly in your long-term memory than if you were to reread the same material. Don't worry about the score if you don't do well on your first attempt. Think about the questions you may have answered incorrectly, then return to the main module and review those topics before giving it another go. If you don't do well on your second attempt, review your answers and try again. The quiz is meant to help you master the content. So you will have 3 opportunities to achieve the passing grade of 70%. Once you have completed a module, please feel free to click on the Module Feedback icon and share your thoughts on how we might improve this section of the course. Your impressions about the overall course are also very important. So, when you've completed all of your modules, please be sure to fill out the particular survey at the bottom of your course dashboard. Your feedback will help us continue to provide the best learning opportunities in the electronics industry.
A thorough understanding of the EAO course, and you would be more interested in taking up this course in days to come. If you have any questions on this, I request you to type your questions to us so that the same thing can be answered. Thank you very much. I hope you have